Hey guys and gals, welcome back to another Monday night live stream. I am joined tonight by Nicole Sauce of Holler Roast Coffee. Best coffee you can buy, by the way. And I want to really talk about and get into the mindset of what it takes to start a small business. Nicole has kind of a cool story of how she went from corporate to coffee. Nicole, I'll let you introduce yourself and let people know who you are and kind of a little bit of your background. What where do you come from and what got you into small business?
Where are you from? I am from Oregon, and I am now in
Oregon.
Tennessee. Living Free in Tennessee is my podcast. And I was attracted to this state because it enabled me to be free for a couple of reasons. One, land was cheaper, and two, the social pressure to conform here is much lower. So people's differences are more accepted here than they were in Oregon. And so when I came out here for about 6 months working on a project, I decided, forget it. I'm going home. I'm selling my house and I'm going to move to Tennessee. And I ended up landing on a homestead, not knowing how to homestead. And what I was doing to make money was working in a corporate job, traveling a lot, which made homesteading really, really hard. And at some point, I realized I was killing myself over a job when it was clear to me that living a life that is in symbiosis with nature, which is one of the things that happens on a homestead, was what had to happen. So I was developing a heart condition, and I
Mm.
basically quit my job and started doing this full time. Well, I had been roasting coffee all along. So that first year, I tried maybe 6 or 7 different things to make money. And it was a very frightening year of not making very much money. And I ended up, because I'm a pretty good public speaker, I applied to speak at a workshop in Texas run by Jack Spirko of the Survival Podcast. And I was telling people how to roast coffee. And in front of them, I said, I will never go commercial with this because the barrier to entry for the next level of coffee roaster is too high. It's $20,000. And at that point, I could not conceive of that much money ever coming into my life again. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I declared that I was not going to take it as my as a big commercial thing, but that it was a good side income. And the minute the words came out of my mouth, I thought, I really like roasting coffee like a lot. And I am going to take this commercial. I am lying to myself. I am lying to all of these people. I'm a big fat lying liar. And
Mhm.
and right after that, 2 things happened. Jack Spirko walked up to me, told me to increase my prices. So sorry about that, but I did. And then another roaster walked up and said, "Hey, I know a commercial roaster you can get it'll be about 5,000 all in." And I did a Kickstarter pre-sold coffee to be able to buy that roaster, then use that roaster to fulfill the orders. And ever since then, Holler Roast Coffee has been growing. So it was a big
Yeah.
year.
That's awesome. I love I've heard you tell that story several times and I always pick up something new in that. But I want to back up a little bit. You said while you were still in corporate or maybe around that time, you made the comment you were roasting coffee all along. Was that something you were doing as a side hustle or just because you liked roasting coffee for yourself?
I was doing it because I like being connected to my food and knowing where my food comes from. And I like good coffee. And I could not find good coffee in Tennessee. That has changed. There are a lot of roasters here now. And I kept going on business trips, buying coffee and bringing it home. And I just ran out one day.
Hmm.
And so then I started researching how to roast coffee because I thought what I could do is I could store a bunch of unroasted coffee and then roast coffee. And so I took a cast iron skillet and learned how to roast coffee. And then I learned you could do it by baking it in the oven. And I did that. And spoiler alert, don't do that. Also, don't do that while your spouse is taking a nap because every smoke detector in your house is going to go off. So don't, yeah, bad idea. But over the years, I made some self-made roasters, and I had always been growing food and selling it at like the surplus vegetables at the farmer's market. So then I started selling the coffee at the farmer's market. And there was always this piece of me that wanted to do my own thing, who
Hmm.
was scared to leave the job to put the effort in to do the thing. So then I
So
burnt the bridges.
yeah, at what point was it? where you kind of made the break from the corporate side of things and started actually earning a full-time income from the coffee. Was there a big gap in there, or was it I'm leaving corporate and coffee is now my thing?
So it was a huge gap. I left corporate hoping I would earn a living, knowing I could work at a grocery store or something if I had to. And I sold eggs. I did coffee. I sold memberships to my podcast. I got paid to do corporate facilitation, like on the side, little jobs here and there. And I started building websites, and I was running a newspaper and selling ads for the newspaper that we were putting together, just highlighting local stuff. So I was doing, was that 6 things, 7 things?
Mm, it's a
And
familiar
not,
story.
yeah, not any one of them really made everything. And what I discovered is that if you sell eggs, people want you to meet them places with the eggs. So then you, in essence, become a delivery person. And I don't want to be a delivery person.
And
So
you
the
spend
eggs,
more on gas delivering the eggs than what you can sell the eggs for.
give me your $5. I spent $10 in gas to get here. Yeah, exactly. And so I stopped doing the eggs other than I was in CrossFit, and at my CrossFit gym, since I was going there anyway, I would sell eggs there if I had extra eggs. So I realized that wasn't going to work. And the corporate facilitation paid the most out of all of that. When I did a week-long project somewhere out of town, that paid me enough for like 3 months expenses. So that was like good money.
Mm,
But it also took me away from the homestead where I wanted to be. And it was also that whole week that I was there, no time for anything else. And over time, the podcast started developing a community of the kind of people I like being around. And that's what really changed, was that community from the, like, you came to me because of the podcast. Like, I know you
right.
because you heard my podcast and you
Yeah.
showed up at my house one day. And that's why I know most people these days. And the coffee was just, it ended up being an extension of the podcast because people listen to my podcast. They're like, I like Nicole. I want to support what she's doing. I also like coffee. I'll buy her coffee rather than somebody else's coffee.
It helps that it's really good coffee too.
Well, that's taken years to develop, but yes, that took a long time to develop. So that ended up, it became clear to me over time that that's where my heart was. And when my heart was there and my attention was there, it did well. But I don't
Mm.
see the two ever set. Like, I don't see not doing the podcast or community stuff and only doing coffee. Because a lot of people have advised me, get rid of the podcast, stop doing Self Reliance Festival and the Spring Workshop, and just do the coffee and you'll make more money. And I'm like, but that's not where my heart is.
Right.
So even if that is true, I think the two feed each other.
Yeah, at some point in there, there's a reason you left the corporate and the facilitations. It's because of that lifestyle thing. And so if it's only about the money, there's other things I'm sure you can do that would make you a lot more money than roasting coffee. So yeah, it is to take that advice and say quit the things that I love to do and only roast coffee would be, I don't know, it kind of go against everything that you have been building the last what's it been now? 5-10 years?
I'm at year 7 now.
7? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Talk
guess
about
the coffee intensively more like 5.
okay, yeah. Yeah, what's kind of the mindset that somebody has to have as they're starting something new? Because anybody who started something new, and I know you've gone through this, I go through this right now as I'm trying to start up a new thing a lot more. The thing where you have that feel like somebody's got their hands around your throat, your heart starts pounding, you can't sleep at night. It's like, how am I going to pay the bills at the end of the month? Like, what kind of a mindset do you have to get through and keep pushing on all of that and continue to build the life you want and not stop in fear and go back to that corporate job or whatever the thing is back there for those that left it?
I think it's a very tricky balance between the ability to completely ignore all the scary stuff by siloing yourself and being aware of what's a real threat. Because most of the hand on your throat feeling, which I have had anxiety attacks, and also, like, I know 100% what you're talking about, like heart pounding, uh, you know, when that happens, I take a walk with my dogs to reset, or I exercise, or I do something, or I call a friend, something to reset, because I know when it's that it's all in my head when those
Mhm.
things are happening. But when that happens, I ask, okay, self, why is this happening? Is there something that you are not doing that you should be doing? And like it's the body trigger of it. And sometimes I'll discover that I've been really interested in pursuing a path of communication or some other activities that, while they're fun for me, they aren't moving the business forward, right?
Right.
Like, you can do a lot of things that make you feel productive and you're checking stuff off that list, but they're not really the things you need to be doing. And then when I realize that, I'll say, okay, well, what I need to do that's most important is, what I need to do tonight that's most important is edit this agenda for Self Reliance Festival.
Mm.
That's it. I know that that's it. I know that that's happening before bed. And along the way, other things need to be done. But there's always a couple of things I know are most important. And when I stop being aware of what's important, that's when the choking happens the most. And then there is a point in every business where you've been doing everything right. You've been pushing really hard and you are not seeing the financial benefit. And by gum, you have a mortgage you need to pay or whatever it is. And money needs to happen. And that one, you just kind of have to stare it in the face and realize that, like, for you, you can make money next week if you need to.
Yeah, I'm
You
gonna spend the next
you say,
couple of days if
"Nicole,
it's not raining, I've
we're
got
building your
construction work
lean-to."
I can go back to.
Yeah, I'm building your lean-to, right? Or
Yep.
whatever it is. Everybody has that if they really wanna have that. You can start picking up people's scrap metal next week and selling it and start making money.
Or
So,
for some of us, we can pick up our own scrap metal and sell it.
well, you're a homesteader, so yes. I'm a homesteader. Of course,
Plenty
I
of
have a pile of
that.
scrap metal that might be useful someday.
But if I scrap it, I won't be able to use it, right?
Have a donate plasma, like whatever it is. It
Uh,
so it's a valid fear, and the fear gets heavier when you have employees because then you're worried about paying them as well.
mhm.
But I think a key to getting in the right mindset is finding reasons to have confidence in yourself and putting the doubt voice below ground.
I like
But
that.
also, you can't be blind to threats or to things that could be inhibiting your ability to grow the business.
Yeah, and that is what so often happens is when that fear does grip you, it's like, okay, I need to shut that out because it's causing me fear, and I'm going to push that back in the corner so I don't see it. And then you tend to not do, like you said, the things you need to do. What is for most new businesses, what is that thing that they need to do? I mean, we need clients. That's often where that comes in at. Need clients because that's where the money comes from, is from other people. But what's the one thing for most of us that we can do to push the business forward when we're in that situation?
You need to sell your product or service, period, end of story. Whatever it takes. And the best way to do that is start talking to people about your product and services in a way that benefits them. Like, why do I want to join your coaching group? Right. Like, what is it going to bring me? What does it matter to me? How many people know you who don't know you do this? If there's anybody on the list who doesn't know you do what you do, then there's one more phone call you can make or one more email you can send. And again, it's a balance. Like, you don't want to go used car salesman on people in this way,
Right.
but you need to sell. And I'm getting a really good education on this right now from Sean Mills from Hack My Homestead, because he's joined the Self Reliance Festival team and he's taken over sponsorship. So I'm watching how he organizes a list, goes out and talks to people, talks to 100 people in the day, and 2 of them come through. So that doesn't sound like fun work to most people. But when those 2 come in and then you get to work on it, it is in fact fun work. And the most
Mhm.
important thing you can do is be getting the message out that your shingle is up and this is what you can do. The other thing you can do that's more fun is tell the story of building it as you go. And as you build it, explain the story of the people you're helping, get them to talk about it, and then that starts adding the credibility and starts selling your product for you.
Hmm. How do you go about? I know you had the podcast that kind of helped you grow the coffee thing, but I'm sure that wasn't enough to sustain a full-time business. How did you go about finding clients for yourself? Was it a go out and get speaking gigs? You mentioned going to Jack's workshop. Were some of those things what really helped kickstart your business, or were there other things that you had to bring in along the way to supplement?
So most of my coffee sales come from speaking engagements, from stories I tell online, and from people who love my coffee telling other people they love my coffee. That is the majority of everything. When we do Instagram posts and those sorts of things, we're usually reaching a warm audience. I rarely get a new customer off of that. I have done advertising on Facebook through their advertising. I have not done YouTube for Holler Roast yet, but that's coming. That's going to be my next push for getting cold eyes. Because, like a warm lead would be Ken Esch says to his brother or sister, this coffee's great. Here, try this coffee. They come to my website. And at that point, they're just deciding if they want to pay, the price per pound for my coffee. And usually the question isn't if, it's like, how many pounds do I want to pay for a month? So that's a very warm lead, right? Or if I'm doing a presentation like I did over the weekend, I talked about the coffee in the presentation so people know it exists. Like that's built into everything. It's not like, hey, buy my coffee. It's just like, hey, as part of doing Holler Roast, this is the thing that relates to this presentation. And then people are like, oh, you do coffee. Do you have any for sale? And then if I have some for sale, I sell it to them right there. And then they try it. And once they try it, they buy it.
Yeah.
And so when you get it to that point, the only time, like I've had a couple people try it and not like it, who just want a different style of roasted coffee. But usually people only go away when it's like, okay, I've given up coffee, or, I need to spend less money for a while and premium coffee is not in my budget. And they usually come back to me in that situation when their situation turns around. So it really depends on where they're coming from. Cold leads are harder because you need to touch them multiple times with something that resonates with them. So I've been watching with some entertainment. There is it's black something coffee. It's not Black Rifle.
Not
Blackout
familiar with
coffee.
it.
It's called Blackout Coffee.
Okay.
And they're completely going after the people who used to be with Black Rifle, who are mad because they're not coming out strongly for the Second Amendment.
Gotcha.
I've been watching their advertising and I'm like, this is 100% a reaction to Black Rifle.
Hey, everything that happens, I mean, if you can build a marketing campaign, or if you can capture that audience, I mean, that's good marketing. It's good business.
Yeah.
But you have to be ready to also jump on the next thing. You can't strictly build a business based off of things like that. So, kind of coming from your perspective, how could somebody that captures an audience like the old Black Rifle people that needed a place to land, once they capture that audience, what could be their next step to continue to grow and move beyond just the ex-Black Rifle people?
I think that then goes to telling the story of people who like your coffee if you're looking for new customers. But within the audience or the people that you've captured, what else can they buy from you? It is much easier to sell to somebody who's already buying from you than to find new people. You can totally tap them for recommendations. If you want to go big, you can launch a huge marketing campaign and a commercial campaign and give discount codes and get a whole bunch of new customers. So you can do drives like that. Every time I've done a Kickstarter, I've doubled or quadrupled my customer base because they're so excited about supporting the Kickstarter, and then boom, they taste the coffee And that's, I feel like a
Got
drug
them
dealer.
hooked.
Yeah, hooked is right. And so there's a lot of different things you can do. Something that I'm going into next is mailing coffee samples to internet influencer personalities and just saying, here it is. I had no expectations. Just if you like it, do this thing. I've done affiliate sales programs. Those have never worked that great for me. So that doesn't mean they can't, though. I think
Mhm.
you end up just needing to try multiple things until you find the thing that works.
Throw spaghetti at the wall until you find what sticks.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit more strategic than that, but
Right,
like
sure.
when you go into something, you want to know, like, what am I expecting out of this? And then did I get it? And if I didn't, is it because I need to do it differently, or is this just not where my target is?
Mhm.
And when you're
How
talking to me, this is like lifestyle business scale. If I was really trying to make a lot of money on coffee, I would not roast it. I would
right.
put 120% of my time into marketing a coffee brand that was all drop shipped from somewhere else.
Mhm. Yeah. I can see how that would be a lot effective because I mean you have to do the marketing anyway to build that side of it. So what's the easiest thing to outsource? And kind of right along with that, you talked about marketing it yourself. How important is brand identity to a new business?
I think it's important to put thought into your brand and your brand promise. And it is worth, if you can't pay somebody to help you get that right, then it's worth putting a lot of your time into it. And get the visuals as well as you can and pay a real designer to make you a logo that looks good.
Mhm.
And be you have to be a little careful with using some of the logo generation tools because of possible copyright infringements when you use elements that you quote unquote can't use, right? So
Mhm.
just pay attention to that. So that's A. B, if you are starting the business, you are the reason that people follow your brand. If your brand promise is true to your ethics, then that part's handled. And if 2 years from now you have a better budget to pay for your brand to have a facelift, that's okay, even if it's a name change. I hate changing names. Like, it's the last thing I wanna do midway through. That being said, if I could rename my podcast the Living Free Podcast, I would. I would take it because I said Living Free in Tennessee because it was cute and rhymed, and I didn't have
Mhm.
money to do market testing, and nobody told me, "Hey, people only think they can listen to you if they're in Tennessee." I was like, "No, I'm in Tennessee." Oh, I see why. I shouldn't have been talking
Yeah.
about myself. I got it.
Talk about your customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a business owner, especially, back when you were starting out, is there such a thing as work-life balance?
Everybody talks about that.
You've heard of it?
I've heard that thing. You're talking to me after, so I have just had the most intensive birthing time of sheep with
Mm.
all of the medical interventions needed
Oh,
while getting
no.
ready for Self-Reliance Festival in 2 weeks and keeping orders
Wow.
coming out the door with Holler Roast. So the answer is not recently.
Yeah.
I've always worked hard though. And the way I feel a balance is that most of my work is the life I want to live. That is my work-life balance. I also would not discount the importance of keeping the relationships in your life strong, right? So even when you're frazzled, making time to talk to your spouse or family, whatever it is, go to the ball games, whatever those things are. To do that, what you do is you don't do other things. Like, you literally
Mhm.
walk away with things unfinished that you need to finish, and you say, "This relationship's worth my time investment, so I'm putting it on my schedule." I think that's how I've seen it work best. That's how it's worked best for me. Like, if my phone rings and it's my sister, I answer the phone if I possibly can, and if she wants to talk for half an hour, I talk for half an hour. Even if it's the worst possible day for me to do that. And the only time I break that rule is if I'm at an event where, I'm expected to be at the event for these hours, and then I call her the next day. So,
Right.
um, so the answer is I don't think so, really, except for it is what you make it. So
Mhm.
that's my
And
personal opinion.
yeah, I find it too, like you said, if you're building a lifestyle business, or even, I mean, even going beyond calling it a lifestyle business, which is often what we call the homestead thing. Like if you're doing work that you actually enjoy doing, then why do you need balance away from that? Like if you need to spend 5 days this week working 20 hours on that project to get it done, then I mean, your balance, you're going to go the other way the next week and take a few days to recuperate from that. So I kind of have a little bit of a different view than most people do on the work-life balance thing, but also I don't have a whole family, waiting at home for me. I have a wife and we can spend time together. I don't have a bunch of kids waiting on me. So that helps me out a little bit on that aspect of it.
Yeah. I have a bunch of
What
lambs waiting for me now.
how many of y'all had this year?
Right now we have 8 alive
Okay.
and
A lot.
1 ewe left to give us whatever. I think we'll have 1 more. And one of the 8 is in my living room right now. Bottle
Wow.
baby, and she's about a week old now. So
Wow. How many have you lost? You said 8 alive.
I pulled 2 stillborn on Friday.
Okay. Wow.
And yeah.
That's it's
And then
never easy.
I actually lost a ewe yesterday too because
Oh man, that's tough.
she had a prolapse and we decided to cull her. It was like,
Mhm.
well, this is going to keep happening. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got goats instead of sheep. I think we have 18 babies right now,
Hmm.
17 or 18, and we've had to put down 2 of them. And
Yeah.
this is like babies everywhere.
Yeah. It's just
It's so
like,
much fun.
it's baby chaos. And so
Yes.
I'm sure goats are this way too. Like you go out to the pasture and the babies are like, Mom, Mom. And the moms are like, Are you mine? Are you mine? Are you? It's like nobody knows who belongs to which one yet. I call
Yeah,
it lamb chaos.
they the goats actually do pretty well, surprisingly, because we have some that look a lot alike, but
Hmm.
other moms do not let them nurse, and
Yeah.
I was surprised at how they can keep them separate.
Yeah, the lambs do that, or the sheep do that too, but it's through smell. So at this phase, they're all little white puff balls, and there's
Yeah.
just this nose thing that happens.
Mhm.
And the lambs haven't like the little ones have not copped to who they belong to yet, like because they can smell too, but they're like, nope, you're not the right white leg to smell. Nope, you're not.
Yep. So what is a piece of advice that you wish you had known when you started out 7 years ago, and how would you adapt that now to someone who's just starting out or is, a year in?
The advice I would give people is the advice actually somebody gave it to me and I didn't understand how to follow it. And it's do your homework every day. And by which I mean the most important things to do that every day,
Mhm.
right away. Don't put it off till tomorrow because what will happen is you will have a lot of homework that you put off and you will lose sales, you will lose credibility, you'll damage your brand if you don't do your homework. So that's what I would say. And to do that, you have to know what it is, and you have to know where your boundaries are for what you're really going to do. So it's funny because Letty's here right now, and she's somebody who helps me with marketing now, and she knows darn well I don't do my homework every day, but I do. I just like some days it's like I know what's not going to happen are these things that I'm supposed to do today. It's
Mhm.
not gonna happen because this is how much time I have, and these are the other things I'm doing, and that's it. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're deciding. You're making a decision to prioritize this over that, something over something else. And by doing that, you're choosing what's best for your business. But if instead of doing that, if instead of doing your homework and deciding, you just sort of let it morph or sit, you're still making a decision, it's just not the decision that would be the right decision.
Right. Yeah, decision by default. Yeah.
Correct.
Is
Decision by default's usually not the right decision.
usually not. Yep, that's so true. One last question, and this one just came to me. I was going to end on the advice, but one last question that I have is a lot of times, especially in certain industries, it seems like it can be hard to collect from clients. Like if you say in the marketing world or building websites or things like that, sometimes when there's some of those types of deliverables and the client doesn't want to pay, what's a good way to go about gently but yet, I mean, with what's a good way to go about collecting, just to put it bluntly?
My experience with people not paying, and as a person who has not paid from time to time, is it's usually not intentional.
Mm.
When you've chosen the right customers, it's not intentional, but people get scattered, people forget to do things. If paying you is not easy, then it's less likely you're getting paid quickly, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if I get a notice on my phone to pay you and I can go boop, 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 and you're paid immediately, because I know what's going to happen is that email is going to be email number 479 when I get home and look at my computer, which I need to do. So everybody who makes me pay by adding my check routing numbers in through QuickBooks link is more likely to fall through the cracks.
Yep.
So if you remind me, I don't get mad. But I know a lot of times when people don't get paid, they're kind of like afraid to remind or to say, hey, when do you think that might happen? And if you kindly ask, then it usually happens, right? Then there's like that 0.5% who are just never going to pay you because they're just the wrong customer and you made a huge mistake. You're never getting paid by that person, and you need to decide if it's worth going to small claims court or not. Like, I had a website I built for somebody who listens to Jack's audience, and I had them. Yeah, see, there's a lamb.
I hear him.
She's 20 minutes out from her next bottle. That's what's up. So the person paid me a deposit for their website, and at that time I was only charging a small deposit, and then there were benchmarks along the way you had to pay me. And I built the whole site and they never paid me. Now the site never launched either, because I won't launch the site until I'm paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I had done 97% of the work on that project and just never got paid except for a $500 deposit. And as a result of that, I started charging 50% down. And, it's like literally that's the only person who hasn't paid me. And I tried and reminded, and just at some point they stopped answering, and I'm like, it's not worth my time. It's not worth my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a decision you have to make. Is it even worth the time
Yeah.
and the headache anymore? And at what point do I let it go?
And
What
can you
is
make a safe space for them to tell you, like people who are like, oops, I don't have the money, which also happens. If you can make it safe for them to talk to you about that, then at least you know what's up and you can plan on it, and then people can make payments. Because I've had that happen where they're like, well, as it turns out, my customer who was supposed to pay me so I could pay you didn't pay me. And I had one take 90 days to pay the person to pay me. And I was like, well, if you have extra, like send me extra because I need to pay my bills too. And they did. And then when the customer paid, it was like the rest of it happened. But yeah, because that can happen too. But
sure. Yeah, absolutely. You never know what's going on the other side of the email or the text or the phone call unless you can have that conversation, and not everybody's willing to do that.
Yeah.
What's one last thing that you would say to somebody who's on the fence about, I've got this great idea, but I'm afraid to launch. I don't know how to go about it. Should I do it? Should I stick with my safe job? This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. What would you say to that person?
Start.
Just start.
You just got to start. Most things you can start without quitting your job, and you can see how it goes. And then you end up in like complete overwhelm when everything's going well because you have a job too. But if you don't start, you'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
And half the time probably more than half the time, you start something and you end up doing something else because of what your experience is when you start it. So start so you can learn what you need to learn. Because like, how many businesses did I fail before Holler Roast did well? 6 or 7 over the course of my life. Never anything catastrophic, but I had stuff, ebb and flow, and every one of those I learned from so that I could do Holler Roast well.
Yeah. Yep, that's where it's at. Just everybody's going to fail, and it's if you can pick up the pieces and learn from that and move on to the next one. Nicole, I always enjoy chatting with you. I learn something every time. Where can people go to find you? And I think you've got some events coming up. Where can they find out about those events?
All the events. Okay, so the best way to find me and connect with anything I'm doing is to go to NicoleSauce.com, which is my name, Nicole Sauce, SAUCE, like spaghetti sauce. And there you can find all the stuff I'm working on, webinars, events, coffee, all of it. And I do have an event. The Self-Reliance Festival is in about 2 weeks, April 6th and 7th. Tickets for that are at selfreliancefestival.com. If you want to come out, we've got a great lineup of speakers, but really the reason you want to come is the people you meet at the event are top notch. And
Mm-hmm.
every time we get out, I was just on with Tag right before this from Life Done Free, and he said, yeah, the sessions are great and you learn something, but really what's happened is, 4 families have moved to our area and started homesteads, and now I have a strong community around me. So come for that. Come to be around other people who like to do things, because a lot of times we're doing the self-doubt thing in our head because the people around us, we're surrounded by the naysayers who are like, they don't want you to start a business and do well because then they look bad. That's
Right.
often what that motivation is. So when you get around people who are like, yeah, that's a great idea, this is what I think you can do to make that better, that's a way better network of people to be in. So that's all at selfreliancefestival.com.
Awesome. 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 NicoleSauce.com and selfreliancefestival.com. Go check it out. I plan to be there in a couple weeks, and I hope to see all of you there.
Yep. See
Nicole,
you
thank you
soon.
so much.
Thank you.